Justification is the one comprehensive word that encompasses the absolute and instantaneous act of God that establishes a sinner in righteous standing before Him. The Bible teaches every single human being, without exception, is born under the guilt, consequence, and condemnation of sin, and alienated from God because of this. In the book of Romans, chapter 3, verse 23, the Bible states this: "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." As stated elsewhere in Romans chapter 5, verse 12, "Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men, because all sinned." Justification is God's amazing work that reverses the effect of mankind's imputed sin from Adam. An epic transaction like this requires nothing less than sinless perfection and obedience to satisfy the divine justice of our holy God and Creator. Throughout world history, there's only been one qualified individual who was given the mission, the authority, and ability to accomplish the task of justification by faith: God the Son, Jesus Christ. The Apostle Paul, who being God's champion on the teaching of justification, says again in the book of Romans chapter 3, verses 24 through 26, "We are justified by God's grace as a gift, through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, whom God put forward as a propitiation by His blood, to be received by faith." This was to show God's righteousness, because in His divine forbearance He had passed over former sins. It was to show His righteousness at the present time, so that He might be just and the justifier of the one who has faith in Jesus. Justification is totally on the basis of the redemptive works of Jesus Christ. His life, obedience, substitutional death, and glorious resurrection graciously made effectual by God to those who by faith will trust in Him as Lord of their life. Justification by faith in Christ becomes the starting point of a person's salvation, which leads them into a life of sanctification, or a life set apart by God, desiring after holiness. Justification by faith includes incredibly deep and spiritually rich truths. Two essential aspects are its pardon and its imputation. First, justification pardons a sinner from the consequence and condemnation from sin. Second, justification imputes or credits to our account the righteousness of Jesus Christ, which alone satisfies the divine justice of God. These two aspects allow God to be both just and the justifier. Just because sin has been punished and dealt with lawfully through the perfect substitutional sacrifice of Christ on the cross. The justifier through the imputed righteousness of Christ given to those who believe. Therefore, sin gets justly punished, as it must, and the righteousness of Christ is credited to a believer's account, meeting God's holy standard and appeasing His wrath from us. Of all biblical doctrines, teachings, and truth, we'll hardly find one more important than justification by faith. Through justification by faith in Jesus Christ, lost, erring, and sinful people become reconciled back to God. Without it, we all will die in our sin, being held eternally accountable for it. That's the amazing, essential, and life-pardoning doctrine of justification by faith in Jesus Christ.